Needless to say, I called him the next morning and declined the job. It was the worst interview process I'd ever been in. What's a red flag when looking for a job? Job description. You will be in charge of the online marketing. Because of that, we expect that you will also be the web developer, photoshopper, community manager, coffee maker and dick sucker. That kind of crap will tell you if that business understands the role they are looking to fill or are just expecting some kind of magical entity that will do everything online related by himself. If the job description has about 20 items of which one is sales, your job is going to be sales. If the job description has multiple items, then the majority of your duty is going to be the worst one of those items. One summer I applied for a construction job. The interviewer told me I might sometimes need to work Saturdays. Fair enough, I thought to myself. Unexpected stuff can come up and require some extra work, it's fine. First day on site, the foreman told me I'll be working both Saturdays and Sundays with no days off indefinitely. My coworkers said this has been going on since Easter. It was August. Oh, and my daily schedule got extended by 2 hours the very next day. Earning potential is stressed over current salary. In 5 years you can be making X. Cool, add that to my offer as guaranteed and we have a deal. Well, it's not guaranteed. Oh, gotcha, so what you're saying is that statement holds no value. Master's degree preferred, for an entry-level job, $30,000 to $40,000. That's generous compared to the listings I've seen. Normally they go like this: R&D chemical engineer needed. Must have at least 5 years experience in developing industrial production processes. Master's degree required. Part-time, 39 hours a week, pay $10.50 an hour. Must be hired through a temp agency so we don't have to commit to you. Making jokes about overtime and crunch time. Guaranteed it's going to be a nights and weekends are optional but not actually optional place. When I was a general manager for Chipotle I would constantly work 12+ hour days, salary. And one busy weekend I worked 15 hours on Friday and 15 on Saturday, and on Sunday I decided to go to the gas station and eat my donuts in my car and just listen to the radio for like 10 extra minutes to just kind of unwind. You better believe the area manager was there the next day with a write-up in hand because I was 10 minutes late on Sunday, but when I asked what about the other 10 extra hours I put into my store the previous days. That's just part of the job description. Initially unpaid, but will result in a full-time offer upon completion of XYZ. This will be an excellent chance to expand your portfolio and gain lots of exposure with leading global brands. Then make it absolutely going to make it impossible to do any of those. And dropping you right before you meet the time requirement. High staff turnover. In a job interview I asked how long do people in this position stay. The manager danced around the question and didn't give me an exact answer. He just told me, I don't know. People come and go. They found other jobs and leave me hanging. That is sign of a place with high turnover. That answer made me take a hard pass on the job. There's a place near me that's always hiring high-level tech folks. And I mean always. Just makes me think, meat grinder. Possibly. The place I work at now doesn't pay a killing and does not chain you to a laptop. From the outside it seems like a regular job, but the entire company focuses on management to a fault. Highly qualified technical staff end up leaving because they have hold back good solutions until they can convince a mammoth management chain to make the case for the solution to the client. Being extremely metric focused, they can show all green reports, but in actual practice most things should be yellow. I have been a consultant for 17 years, I have never worked at such a slow pace. Hiring lots of people in the same position, everyone who calls gets a job. Often means the job is either crap or they're setting you all up to compete for the actual job. I had this once. Turned out it was commission only, door-to-door vacuum sales. I did that for a month. My breaking point was when I was told I couldn't carry any water with me in what is essentially desert climate in the middle of summer. Was told to request a glass of water from random strangers. Same if I needed to use the bathroom. I wound up so parched I was risking real dehydration, and the other salespeople had the nerve to drink all my water. Oh, and I sold a grand total of 3 vacuums. I actually had 5 sales, but I quit on a Friday, and by Monday they claimed my last 2 sales were cancelled, and I now owed them something like $150 for accessories. Convinced them to zero out my entire account and just close it. Edit, since I have a lot of replies asking which vacuum, it was Kirby. When they shit-talk previous employees, they're going to do it to you. Same goes for them insulting current employees behind their back. I saw that during my orientation. 2 supervisors were loudly talking about how useless an employee was after they got off the phone with him. Even if it's true, the fact that they don't care who hears them is a sign of a toxic work environment. My bosses do this. The smell of the last guy hadn't even left the building before they just started shitting all over him. Funny thing is, he was easily one of the best employees in the department and rose accordingly. They immediately started talking about how much he sucked and all that the second he left the group. Now, how do you think that makes those of us struggling to climb the ladder, to even get noticed for non-payroll advancements, feel? Yeah, I'm currently job hunting. When I was in college I had applied online for a job at SpaceX, and they randomly called me like 2 months later asking if I had time to talk about my resume right then and there. I hadn't even looked at my resume for the past 2 months, and frankly I was not prepared for that phone call, lol. So, years ago, my old company was hiring a mechanical engineer job, but the director of the department suddenly had a family emergency and had to go out of town the next day. They called the last applicant and said, "Can you come in and interview, like now?" The candidate explained that he was out and about, and couldn't get dressed or anything. The director basically said, "Don't care." That's how the dude that got the job got to interview in a black band t-shirt and ripped jeans. So, before you red flag it, make sure that a sudden interview isn't warranted. A former coworker shared this tidbit with me years ago, and it works wonders. Try to schedule your in-person interview as late in the afternoon as possible, relevant to your position. If you're expecting a 9 to 5 job, schedule your interview for 4 o'clock or 4:30. You probably discussed after-hours work etc. during the interview. When you are done, you should be able to look around. Are people still working? Is the parking lot empty? You can match up the evidence with what was claimed during the interview, and from that, judge how realistic the entire job description is based on how they treated the after-hours work. Couple of things. Open interviews. Admittedly I've fallen for this a few times, but I was young and stupid. It's clear they have a high turnover, so they're trying to secure as many people as they can. Most of the time these open interview jobs don't have salaries, just commission. Refusal or reluctance to share details over the phone. This is what usually ends up in you turning up to an open interview. If they withhold information about the role, what you'll be doing etc., that's a huge red flag. They just want to get you in the door for an interview to pressure you into joining. Arrived for an interview not too long ago. Showed up 15 minutes early and had all my certs to prove training. Waited over 20 minutes before the secretary led me to a conference room. Waited another 40 minutes and got fed up. Quality manager walked in as I was getting up to leave. He was very offended when I told him he had wasted my time and I would never accept a position after being left to wait almost an hour while having an appointment. This was a red flag I had during an interview process once. I was doing a phone interview for an IT position, and the person I was interviewing with basically changed the details of the job during the interview. Instead of the first shift hours the position promised, he immediately went into saying it would be 6+ months before the opportunity for first shift would even be a possibility. Also, he was big into asking how dedicated I was to jobs. The idea of weekend shifts, again, not in the original description, kept coming up, and how everyone had to be a team player and help out on weekends when needed. The kicker was when he started talking about how many hours he worked. He was bragging that he was up at 6 a.m. every day working, then he'd go into the office for the day, come home to see his family for dinner, and get right back to work until 10 to 11 p.m. every night. I had never been turned off from a job faster in my life. He asked me to think things over and he'd send me some paperwork via email. Needless to say, I called him the next morning and declined the job. It was the worst interview process I'd ever been in.
Like and subscribe for more funny, interesting, and scary r/ask Reddit videos.